I stood there, gripping the handle of my suitcase so tightly my knuckles turned white. My pulse pounded in my ears as I scanned Jasmine's face for any hint of guilt, any sign that this was just a misunderstanding. Nothing. Only mild amusement, as if I were overreacting, as if this was something to brush off. "You seriously didn't think to book a room for me?" My voice came out lower than intended, straining to keep my composure. Jasmine let out a light chuckle. "Ethan, you always handle your own stuff. I assumed you'd take care of it." Paige snorted beside her, tossing her long blonde hair over one shoulder. "Wow, guess someone wasn't on the guest list." Samantha leaned against the reception desk, watching with a smirk. "Maybe there's a broom closet available?" Heat crawled up my neck. Their laughter echoed, fueling the fire simmering in my chest. Jasmine wasn't just indifferent, she was reveling in it. The concierge cleared his throat. "Sir, I can check if there have been any last-minute cancellations." I barely heard him. My gaze stayed locked on my wife, the woman I had trusted, the woman who had somehow left me out of our own vacation plans. "Don't bother," I muttered, stepping back. "I'll figure it out." Jasmine sighed dramatically. "Ethan, don't be so sensitive. We're here to have fun." "Who's we?" I shot back. "Because it's pretty clear I wasn't part of the plan." She rolled her eyes, already turning away. "Do whatever you want." That was it. No apology. No concern. She simply linked arms with Olivia and strolled toward the elevators, her friends trailing behind. I watched as they disappeared, their laughter fading into the distance. The concierge shifted awkwardly. "Sir, are you certain you don't want me to check for alternative accommodations?" I exhaled sharply, running a hand through my hair. I wasn't about to beg for a room in a place where I clearly wasn't welcome. "No, thanks." With nowhere to go and a growing storm of resentment in my chest, I grabbed my suitcase and walked out. The resort's exterior was just as extravagant as its lobby, a blend of luxury and tropical paradise. Tall palm trees swayed in the ocean breeze, the scent of salt water thick in the air. Couples strolled along the pathways, lost in their own worlds, oblivious to the fact that I had just been discarded like an afterthought. I needed a drink. The open-air bar near the pool was dimly lit, lined with high stools and shelves of expensive liquor. I slid onto a seat, setting my suitcase beside me. The bartender, a man with sharp features and an easy smile, nodded in greeting. "What'll it be?" "Whiskey," I said, rubbing a hand down my face. "Neat." As he poured, I felt a presence settle beside me. A deep, smooth voice followed. "Rough night." I glanced sideways. A man, maybe in his early 30s, leaned against the bar. Dark hair, piercing blue eyes, an aura of effortless confidence. He wore a linen shirt, unbuttoned just enough to show a hint of muscle. "You could say that," I muttered, taking a sip of my drink. He smirked. "Girlfriend drama?" "Wife." The word felt foreign in my mouth, as if it no longer held the weight it once did. "Ah." He took a slow sip from his own glass. "Let me guess, she ditched you the moment you got here?" I narrowed my eyes. "How'd you know?" He chuckled. "Saw you at the front desk. The way those women laughed. Brutal." I huffed out a bitter laugh. "Yeah. Guess I'm the joke of the trip." He extended a hand. "Adrian." I shook it, feeling the strength behind his grip. "Ethan." "Look, Ethan," Adrian said, resting an elbow on the counter. "I've seen this before. A group of women, one poor bastard left in the dust. Let me guess, she's been pulling away for a while now." The words hit harder than they should have. Jasmine had been different lately, distant, secretive, always on her phone. I had chalked it up to stress, work, or maybe just a phase. But standing here, abandoned in a place where I was supposed to be with my wife, the truth was undeniable. Adrian studied my expression and smirked. "Thought so." I downed the rest of my whiskey, the burn doing nothing to dull the ache in my chest. "You got a place to stay?" he asked casually. I shook my head. "Resort's full. Looks like I'll be sleeping on the beach." He let out a short laugh. "Or," he reached into his pocket, pulling out a keycard, "you could crash at my place." I frowned. Why would you offer that to a stranger? Adrian leaned back. Because I know what it's like to be blindsided. And because I've got more rooms than I know what to do with. I hesitated. The logical part of me said no, but the part that had been tossed aside, humiliated, and discarded was screaming for something, anything, that would give me back some control. I took the key. Good choice, Adrian said with a grin. Let's get you settled. I followed him out of the bar, leaving behind the resort that had no place for me. Jasmine had made it clear she had no plans for me on this trip. Fine. I'd make my own. The suite Adrian led me to was nothing short of extravagant. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a breathtaking view of the ocean, where moonlight shimmered on the rolling waves. A sleek bar lined one side of the living area, stocked with top-shelf liquor, while a massive bed dominated the adjoining bedroom. It was more than just a hotel room, it was a statement. Power, wealth, control, everything I felt stripped of tonight. I set my suitcase down near the door, glancing around in disbelief. This is yours. Adrian smirked, stepping inside effortlessly, like he belonged anywhere he went. Yeah. Perks of being in the right business. I eyed him curiously. And what business is that? He chuckled, pouring 2 drinks at the bar. Let's just say I specialize in opportunities. I took the glass he handed me, feeling the weight of his words. Adrian wasn't just some random vacationer. He carried himself differently, like a man who had seen and done more than he let on. To new opportunities, he said, raising his glass. I clinked mine against his before taking a long sip, letting the burn settle in my chest. So, why help me? You don't even know me. He leaned against the bar, studying me with those piercing blue eyes. I know enough. The air shifted between us, thick with unspoken thoughts. I wasn't used to being scrutinized like this, like someone was peeling back layers I hadn't realized were exposed. Adrian set his drink down, stepping closer. Let me ask you something, Ethan. How long have you been convincing yourself that your wife still cares? The question landed like a punch to the gut. I opened my mouth to argue, to deny, but the words wouldn't come. Adrian smirked knowingly. Yeah, that's what I thought. I turned away, running a hand through my hair. It's not that simple, isn't it? He stepped beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat of his presence. She left you out of your own vacation, laughed with her friends while you stood there humiliated, and then walked away without a second thought. Sounds pretty simple to me. His words slashed through every excuse I had made for Jasmine. Every time I had told myself she was just busy, just tired, just stressed. Maybe I had been blind. Maybe I had just refused to see. Adrian's voice dropped lower. You don't strike me as the kind of man who lets himself be forgotten. I exhaled sharply, turning to meet his gaze. Maybe I don't know what kind of man I am anymore. A slow smile curled on his lips. Then maybe it's time to find out. The tension in the air thickened, charged with something I couldn't define. I expected him to back off, to let the moment pass, but Adrian wasn't the type to retreat. Instead, he leaned in slightly, just enough to make my pulse spike. You ever wonder what it'd feel like to be the one in control? I swallowed hard, my grip tightening around my glass. What are you saying? He tilted his head slightly. I'm saying, if she's already treating you like you don't exist, maybe it's time to stop waiting for her to notice you. His words wrapped around me like a challenge. A temptation. I knew what he was suggesting. I should have shut it down, should have walked away. But the anger simmering beneath my skin, the humiliation of tonight, the months, maybe years, of Jasmine pulling away, all twisted together into something dangerous. Something I wasn't sure I wanted to resist. Adrian watched me carefully, reading every hesitation, every internal battle waging inside me. Then, as if deciding for me, he reached out and traced the edge of my jaw with his fingers, slow and deliberate. A shudder ran through me, not just from the unexpected touch, but from the sheer power shift happening in that moment. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one left waiting. I was the one being pursued, and I had no idea if I wanted to stop it. I should have stepped back. Should have told him this was a mistake. But I didn't. Adrian's touch lingered at the edge of my jaw, a silent invitation, a test to see just how far I was willing to go. And the worst part? I didn't want to pull away. Not after what Jasmine had done. Not after she left me standing there, humiliated, discarded like I was nothing. I wanted to feel something other than anger. Something that reminded me I still existed. Adrian seemed to sense the war inside me. His lips curled into a smirk, his voice low, deliberate. "You don't have to pretend, Ethan. I see it all over you." I swallowed hard, my grip tightening around the glass in my hand. "See what?" "That hunger." His fingers traced down my neck, light enough to send a shiver through me. The need to take back control. Every rational thought screamed at me to stop. But rationality hadn't done me any favors tonight. Jasmine had abandoned me on this trip, mocked me in front of her friends. She'd made her choice. Maybe it was time I made mine. I set my glass down with a quiet clink, my pulse hammering against my ribs. The air between us was thick, charged with something I hadn't felt in years, desire, raw and unfiltered. Adrian's smirk deepened as he stepped closer. "That's it." He reached for my collar, fingers brushing the skin just beneath. A slow, deliberate move, one that made my breath hitch. He was patient, waiting for me to make the next move, waiting for me to cross that final line. I didn't hesitate. Grabbing the back of his neck, I pulled him in, crashing my mouth against his. The kiss was fire, sharp and demanding, years of pent-up frustration and betrayal bleeding into it. Adrian responded instantly, pressing into me with equal force. His hand slid down my sides, firm, claiming, pulling me even closer. It was nothing like the hesitant, distant way Jasmine had touched me in the past year. This was different. This was real. I lost myself in it, in the taste of whiskey on his tongue, in the way his body molded against mine. It wasn't just lust, it was defiance. A silent rebellion against everything I had been forced to endure. Adrian pulled back just enough to meet my gaze, his breath warm against my lips. "That's more like it." My chest heaved, heart pounding in a way that had nothing to do with nerves. I felt alive, more alive than I had in years. But then reality crashed down like a cold wave. Jasmine. The trip. What the hell was I doing? I stepped back abruptly, raking a hand through my hair. My pulse still thundered, my skin burned where he had touched me, but guilt clawed at my chest. Adrian watched me, unbothered, as if he had expected this reaction. He leaned against the bar, tilting his head. "Regrets already?" I exhaled sharply. "I don't know." "Then that means no." He poured another drink, sliding it toward me. "You don't regret it, Ethan. You just don't know how to accept that you wanted it." I stared at the amber liquid in the glass, my reflection distorted in its depths. Did I want this? Or was I just desperate to feel something, anything, after everything Jasmine had done? Adrian took a sip of his own drink, watching me with those sharp blue eyes. "Let me guess. Right now, you're telling yourself you're nothing like her. That you wouldn't stoop to her level." My jaw clenched. "I'm not." He chuckled, shaking his head. "Ethan, she threw you away the second this trip started. She's probably in another man's bed right now, while you're standing here torturing yourself over one kiss." The thought sent a fresh wave of anger surging through me. Jasmine. In someone else's arms. Laughing about me, mocking me. The pain of it was unbearable. Adrian set his drink down and took a step closer. "You can either keep pretending, keep letting her walk all over you, or you can take back your power." I swallowed hard, every nerve in my body on edge. I knew what he was offering. Revenge. A way to level the playing field. I could still feel his lips on mine, the way my body had reacted, the way my pulse had roared to life. Maybe Adrian was right. Maybe it was time I stopped being the one left behind. The morning sun streamed through the suite's windows, painting the room in hues of gold and orange. I stood by the balcony, gripping the railing, staring at the ocean as waves crashed against the shore. My mind was a battlefield, torn between the choices I had made and the ones that lay ahead. Last night had been a blur of heat, rebellion, and reckless abandon. Adrian had been more than just a temptation. He had been a wake-up call, A reminder that I was still a man, not some pathetic afterthought in my own marriage. And now, as I inhaled the salty morning air, I realized something. I felt no guilt, no remorse. For the first time in years, I felt free. A knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. I turned, exhaling sharply before opening it. Jasmine stood there, arms crossed, her expression a mixture of fake concern and barely concealed irritation. "There you are," she said, stepping inside without invitation. "I tried calling you last night." I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Really? That's funny because my phone was on the whole time." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Don't start, Ethan. Where were you?" I let out a short laugh. "Where was I? You mean after you and your friends laughed in my face? After you conveniently forgot to book me a room? After you walked away without a second thought?" She rolled her eyes. "I told you it was a mistake. I didn't think you'd be so dramatic about it." I clenched my jaw, my fingers tightening against my arms. She didn't even try to hide her indifference. "I found my own accommodations," I said, my voice calm. "Turns out, some people actually treat me with respect." Jasmine scoffed. "Oh, please. You probably just sulked around the bar all night. That's what you do, isn't it? Sit around, waiting for people to feel bad for you." I stared at her, the woman I had once loved, the woman I had built a life with. But now, all I saw was someone who had no respect for me. Someone who thought I would always stay. Not anymore. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "You know, Jasmine, I used to think that if I just held on, if I just loved you enough, you'd remember what we had. But now I see the truth." She frowned. "What truth?" "That you're not the woman I married. And I'm not the man who will tolerate it anymore." Her eyes narrowed, suspicion flickering across her face. "What are you saying?" I smirked. "I'm saying I had a hell of a night. And unlike you, Jasmine, I didn't have to lie about where I slept." Her face paled, and for the first time, I saw something new in her expression: uncertainty. She swallowed. "You're lying." I leaned in, lowering my voice just enough to make her breath hitch. "Am I?" The silence between us was deafening. I could see the wheels turning in her head, the cracks forming in her carefully constructed ego. She had expected me to be the same man as always, the one who forgave, who begged, who stayed. But I wasn't that man anymore. Adrian stepped out of the bedroom at that exact moment, stretching lazily as he ran a hand through his tousled hair. He wore nothing but a pair of low-slung pajama pants, his toned chest on full display. Jasmine froze, her mouth falling open in stunned disbelief. Adrian smirked. "Oh, hey. Didn't realize we had company." Her eyes darted between us, horror washing over her face as the realization sank in. I savored the moment. The way her bravado cracked, the way her confidence shattered. She had spent so long treating me like an afterthought, assuming I would always be there, waiting in the shadows while she flaunted her fun, her independence, her superiority. But now, the tables had turned. I turned to Adrian, grinning. "Thanks for the room. And for everything else." His smirk widened. "Any time." Jasmine staggered back a step. "Ethan, what the hell?" I held up a hand, cutting her off. "Save it. I don't need your explanations. I don't need your excuses. And I sure as hell don't need this marriage anymore." She shook her head, panic setting in. "You don't mean that." "Oh, I do." I grabbed my suitcase and walked past her, pausing only once. "Enjoy the rest of your vacation, Jasmine. You and your friends can have the whole damn trip to yourselves." I didn't look back. As I stepped into the elevator, Adrian beside me, I felt something lift from my shoulders. Years of pain, disappointment, and unreciprocated love. For the first time in a long time, I was choosing myself. And it felt damn good.